Hi and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be looking into what is the purpose of this connection and why did you and this person meet? There are 3 groups to choose from. Group 1 is the Amethyst, along with these cards. Group 2 is the red Jasper, along with these cards. And group 3 is the rose Quartz, along with these cards. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups, or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to. I'll give you a minute to make your selection and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you'd like to jump ahead, which I do recommend using so that you can skip over me shuffling cards in between groups to clear the energy of the group I've just read for and tap into the energy of the group I'm about to read for. So again, I'll give you a minute. Please use the timestamps and we'll get into your reading. Group 1, you chose the Amethyst, along with these cards, which I will take a look at in a minute. I'm just going to channel a little bit based on this Amethyst first. So Amethyst is a stone of protection. This is often associated with the third eye and the crown chakra, so psychic gifts, intuition, inner knowing. So it feels that you and this person have been drawn into one another's world to activate something in terms of your psychic perceptions, your spiritual gifts. So there may have been some kind of an awakening that was initiated or sparked between you and this person, or if this is an instance where you had already sort of undergone an awakening prior to meeting them, something about the exchange energetically between the two of you is meant to either clarify or enhance these gifts. This may be a connection where there is an openness about discussing these things, kind of comparing notes with one another, that in some way it's almost kind of putting rubber to the road in terms of gifts that you've been cultivating within yourself or maybe just experiencing for the first time, and applying that and exploring that and experiencing that in what feels to be a very safe space. Amethyst is also a stone of serenity. So a lot of calm, a lot of peace, that this connection is really intended to lead you towards. There may be times of deep triggering and turbulence. Almost it feels like as if the sleep is kind of shaken off of your eyes. And I'm using eyes in the plural sense to refer to each of you in terms of your third eye chakra, your inner sight, your inner knowing. And again, a space where there may be that turbulence as you are kind of stepping into sort of that greater awareness, trusting in that intuition, trusting in that inner knowing, becoming very aware, and experiencing on a tangible level signs and synchronicities that is meant to really introduce you to kind of a wider sort of scope of the nature of reality, the nature of life, your interconnectedness with that. In some way, this connection, either directly or indirectly, is really sort of intended to bring you into greater alignment with your spiritual self, with your spirit guides, your angels, source, kind of consciousness that is both within sort of the human species and outside of that. So a very profound connection in the sense of aligning you in some way for the two of you. Now, whether you each choose to sort of participate and explore this, and to a greater or lesser degree, the door is open nonetheless through this connection, to come into that greater kind of awareness of your purpose in this lifetime, your place in kind of the cosmic web, or in sort of the universal plan, parts of life that you had maybe never questioned. This is kind of a wider lens, sort of taking off some of those blinders in terms of what you would view as sort of the scope of reality, a particular path you were headed down, a trajectory that you were, really riding toward a particular horizon, that with this person, with this connection, the experiences you have with one another, and even remotely from one another, still very much affecting each other energetically speaking, that it is intended to cleanse that inner perception. It is intended to kind of bring you forth, to birth you forth into a more conscious version of each of you. So there may be times where one of you is kind of taking the lead and the other is following, but it feels like a connection where there is, again, this kind of safe space or this openness to at least sort of touch on these subjects, this kind of realm of otherness, these experiences that you're having. So a very deeply spiritual connection that might be something that is kind of the basis for how the two of you meet, how the two of you connect. This may be a very kind of open portal between the two of you from almost the inception of the connection, or it could be something that over the course of the connection, you both gradually sort of explore these aspects within yourselves, and then are able to kind of, again, compare notes with one another, or sort of ebb and flow in and out of each other's kind of lives, or in terms of the intensity or the intimacy you're able to achieve with one another, kind of growing in that sort of spiritual awareness, that spiritual sense of self very individually, and then coming back together to exchange in a different sort of way in terms of what you're talking about, ideas that are exchanged, even direct discussions of these matters. So I'm going to take a look now at these cards to get a little bit deeper into that, the purpose of this connection, why you've met this person. We've got inner peace, adventures, and voyage. So this is really tying in very well with what I was channeling with the amethyst. Again, this kind of this sanctuary, this safe space, even just energetically speaking, that this connection provides for you. It's a motivation. It's almost that nudge forward with adventures and voyage to explore aspects of yourself that may have been laying dormant in you for quite some time. These may have been things that you had kind of repressed or shut down in terms of your psychic abilities, or again, you were largely unaware of these things prior to encountering this individual and being really activated into that, sort of kickstarting a spiritual awakening, or if you had already sort of previous to meeting this person had been awakened in some capacity. This almost feels like a companion with the two fish here on that kind of journey to the inner knowing, that journey of wisdom, that journey into the inner terrains and kind of the outer realms of consciousness, beyond sort of the scope of mundane reality and sort of the everyday dealings, what we are normally conditioned to sort of focus on, or to, the limits that we have put upon ourselves, or on sort of the scope of energy and our ability to kind of co-create with that. In some way, again, this idea with the inner peace and kind of this adventure that's sort of, it's this darkened sort of scene here, that it feels that the two of you are companions for one another, maybe kind of literally physically, if this is an ongoing connection, or even just energetically, if you're sort of in a period of separation with one another. You are illuminating for one another some kind of dark corners within within self that have been untapped. This really feels to be untapped potential. I'm kind of drawn with the whales here, and how, you know, the whale song and sort of the frequency and the vibration with which they speak across those kind of dark depths and the distance of the ocean. This is really bringing up the idea of kind of the cosmic void, this primordial womb space that exists within each of us, and kind of makes up the fabric of sort of life and consciousness in a very broad sense in general. That the two of you are really explorers. This is an adventure. You are setting sail. You are traveling deeper into those landscapes within yourself with these gifts, this kind of wisdom, this knowing, this kind of exploration, feeling into these things, becoming more comfortable, experimenting with these things, you know, experiencing life in kind of a greater capacity, really tuning in and tapping into things at a vibrational level, at an energetic level, maybe even just changing the language of how you speak, how you think, how you sort of view the world and the interconnectedness of all things, that you are really companions for each other, and with each other, sort of diving into these things, awakening that untapped potential within self, and really an expansion of kind of the view of one's place in the world, which it feels ultimately this kind of this being kickstart into this journey into self. It is intended to really bring the two of you to a greater sense of inner peace by knowing yourselves on a more intimate and thorough level. You are able to be at peace with kind of your place in the grand scheme of things, you know, your place in the world. You step more into that space of empowerment through knowledge of self. And this can also really tie in with these kind of birds here in the adventure card, that in some way this is this connection is really meant to kind of activate you, and sort of the journeying that you do within, the exploration that you do even external to yourself, finding answers, seeking wisdom, seeking knowledge, that this helps you to speak your authentic truth of who you are, to almost sing your song out vibrationally. You know, literally, some of you may be musicians, maybe singers, or just in terms of the way you express yourself, the things that you talk about, the ideas that you ponder, what you are focusing upon in your everyday reality, how you are utilizing the time which you have in this incarnation here and now on this planet. That this connection is really meant to sort of reimagine that, or help you to kind of reawaken that or expand that in some capacity. With all three of these cards here that have animals on them, it's this idea as well of kind of rewilding, a getting back to basics, coming back to the start. Before maybe some of these gifts within you, you've sort of hushed those away, you've quieted them down, you'd suppressed them or ignored them, had come to question them. An energy of disbelief gives way to this element of being very enchanted with the world again, recognizing a deeper sense of companionship and connectedness to this person through this dynamic, even across the distance, being able to feel and sense them energetically. And then it also feels to be something which kind of in a larger way, a purpose of it, kind of the reasons for the two of you connecting is to sort of alleviate a sense of loneliness that you may have had, recognizing that even when we are just kind of enjoying the pleasure of our own company, we are never truly alone. We are energetically connected to and communicating with the world around us at all times. Sentient beings, that takes on a larger kind of a meaning than just kind of flesh and blood, what is tangible, what is seen right in front of us. And so a deeper kind of diving into co-creating and a sense of community and communion that this connection is really instigating each of you to create within yourselves, and kind of in a larger sort of scope with the world around you as well. So I'm going to get a little bit of tarot to get some clarification about this. Okay, we have the Knight of Wands, which is fire energy, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Strength, which is Leo. Seven of Cups, which is water energy, Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. Three of Pentacles, which is earth energy, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. Nine of Pentacles, so more earth energy. And Queen of Cups, so more water energy. So this is definitely tying in with this idea of Three of Pentacles and kind of a foundation, some sort of an idea or perception that you had about sort of who you are, the nature of existence, the nature of your experience, maybe even some foundations you had laid for yourself in terms of what you were prioritizing. In some way, this connection is meant to really open up and expand your perception so that you have a wider variety of choices available to you. You have the choice to sort of expand your path, to sort of reimagine this. This connection really is intended to, again, kind of awaken you to a greater ability to perceive energies within and around you so that you are able to kind of harness this element of discernment, to be able to decipher love from fear and to course correct yourself accordingly. Any sort of paths that you've been walking or ways in which you've limited yourself. There's an expansive energy here, something with the heart chakra as well, with the Queen of Cups, something that, again, is really meant to stimulate you into appreciating and recognizing and harnessing that interconnectedness with the world around you. And with life in a very kind of large and sort of nebulous sense. Nine of Pentacles, this card of independence and prosperity, can really talk about aligning you with some way with kind of your true life's purpose, your true calling. This may be something related to kind of these spiritual elements of self that really you discover, parts of yourself that had been kind of hidden in the shadows, bringing those forth into more of your dominant personality, more of your kind of waking reality with the Strength card, kind of this balance between the higher and lower natures within self. Coming into this place where you're able to step forth with more authenticity, and even kind of that slip of the tongue there and the word force that came out. It really is speaking about stepping into the true force of the power that you hold within. Knight of Wands is, again, this card of activation and of moving forward with new purpose, with renewed vigor, with a new kind of vision for yourself, the life that you have created, and some new possibilities that you would like to bring forth. This can also really tie into a connection which is intended to align you with kind of a spiritual path that you may not have been aware of before, spiritual practices which in some way help you to attain that greater sense of inner peace, to sort of quell a lot of uncertainty, anxiety, or even malaise that you have been experiencing up until this point in your life, or even through the circumstances, kind of the chaos that may be generated in this connection at times between you and this individual. And sort of the methods and means you are then kind of left to your own devices to seek out and to discover, to find that peace, to become that love that you have been seeking from another, that in some way this is in alignment with a greater kind of purpose or potential for yourself. For many of you, this can then talk about sort of this raw material and these experiences that in some way you kind of craft or harness that, you create that into being this guiding light for others with the Knight of Wands, this way shower. Your own process of kind of healing and coming to terms with who you are in a more kind of well-rounded capacity, bringing those elements up out of the shadows and balancing that and creating space for that in kind of the light of your everyday reality, speaking your truth, standing more in that power, being very empowered with all facets of yourself, that this may be something you then sort of you parlay into a spiritually based business. Maybe you start a channel, you start a podcast, you start a blog, you start creating classes, creating some kind of a sense of community, some sort of awareness. Some of you may write a book. This may affect artistic pursuits, maybe even that reference to music. This can definitely be something which you are mindful of and that kind of goes into your creative act in a more conscious manner as a result of what is really activated or awakened within you through this connection. The idea with inner peace and the two fish here, and also with the kind of the lion and the maiden on the Strength card, This can be something where the two of you, it feels like, are energetically co-creating with one another, but you may be intended to kind of, also with this Three of Pentacles, which is an energy of collaboration. It's something where the two of you may be intended to kind of collaborate and create something in the material sense, like a spiritually based business, something that is kind of in the realm of leaving a legacy or almost making the world a better place than what you found it. You know, doing your part with what you have where you are to kind of shine your light very brightly, which encourages and is almost contagious for others to kind of dive deep into those waters, find themselves, lean into, you know, some of the confusion and kind of the chaos in and of itself that a spiritual awakening can entail, and sort of exploring and learning to work with one's sort of psychic gifts and spiritual gifts. So a very empowering connection, and it feels like a lot of personal empowerment with a lot of potential to ripple out and be almost change makers for others, whether this is something that you do literally in the physical world with one another, or just the changes that are really taking place so that you have the opportunity to explore within yourselves, has a great potential to create a new kind of ripple in the lives that you touch, you know, kind of subsequent to this intersection with one another and everything that sort of unfolds at that point. Vibrationally, you've been changed. It's almost like a new layer of reality has been brought to your awareness, and there's no sort of shutting that down. There's no kind of closing one's eyes to that again. You have been fundamentally changed, or almost like the right note or the right kind of keyword was used, energetically speaking, between you and this individual, and it has really brought something that has been in a state of dormancy or suppression out more into the open, up into the conscious sort of reality to be explored, to be harnessed, and to be expressed or reimagined in a different way than you had kind of conceived of these elements or aspects of yourself, and then how that kind of internal component is reflective in sort of the life you build for yourselves, or are kind of participating with in a material sense. So I'm going to get some guidance from Spirit about this situation. Okay, and we have run wild for a while. So that is very fitting, very appropriate with that idea with all these animals here, in a sense of rewilding yourself. You know, you're really guided to just lean into this, explore this, as scary, as kind of uncertain as you may be about what you will find in sort of those primordial depths within self. You know, kind of these maybe even psychic skills or abilities or gifts that you had, you know, just kind of been conditioned, maybe through your upbringing or your culture, some kind of tradition or religion, or just even the world around you. The world is always changing, and though there's an openness to these things now, that has not always been the case. So many people kind of earlier on in their life just were sort of instinctually felt it was safest to kind of shut these things down. And so a lot of people are being reawakened to these aspects of self. It's a rewilding, it's a coming back to basics. It's almost building a new foundation, kind of this energy of sort of a return to innocence, back before, you know, you were shamed or guilted or, you know, made to feel fearful of these aspects of self. This is really encouragement to, you know, explore these things that are coming up within you, explore these kind of, you know, perceptions, these sensitivities and these gifts. It's encouragement, you know, to kind of breathe through this process as well. You know, really trust your instincts in terms of what resonates with you as you're combing through all this information, as you're trying to really sort of decipher and sort of feel into what is happening energetically with you and this person, what is being awakened within you through your direct interactions, if the two of you currently interact with each other in a physical sense, or even if it's just at a distance and energetically, you two are kind of, you're contributing to one another energetically, even when there's kind of distance or silence between the two of you. And really just sort of trusting in what is being awakened. Question these things, you know, use discernment, not just sort of taking the first answer that comes along, but really researching, really feeling into these things. Encouragement as well to kind of break with tradition in some way. If the information that you're finding or the material that is out there as you're exploring these elements of self, or even kind of the nature of this connection, if it's not really resonating with what you are experiencing, that's that internal kind of clue or that nudge to go more deeply within. The answers that you have lie within you. You've been activated or turned on in some way, and so a large kind of part of this connection, part of this kind of circumstance is at a certain point, the well will run dry in terms of external information that can kind of fill that need for answers within you. At a certain point, you will have to dig within. The resources lie within you. Kind of the things that we, that we get external to ourselves, the confirmation, hearing other people's stories, other people's opinions, the way other people channel or from the vantage point they are looking at, that can lead us to a certain point. But then at a certain stage of any kind of awakening or exploration of self, it really is a journey within self. It's a very unique path. It's a very unique experience. What you find, how you harness that, how you utilize that, it's different for everybody. And so this is encouragement to just, the temptation may be there to really question or to fight, but this is an energy of surrender and trust in sort of the direction that you are going. The staff here also that she's holding, it's got this kind of a carving of a flame as well. So this can really talk about, again, a way shower, that the activations that have taken place, the experiences you are having with this person, it is really, ignited something within each of you, and it's almost an initiatory phase at this point in time and at different kind of layers and levels within this connection to, what you discover, what you explore, aspects of yourself that you bring out of kind of the darkness and into the light. That can be an example for others. You can be a way shower for others, maybe literally in something that you do, something that you put out there, or even just in how you step more into that authenticity for yourself, how that vibration is then contagious to the lives around you that you touch, even in a mundane sense. People that you interact with at the grocery store, somebody who passes you on the street as you are walking and you make eye contact with, you smile or you say hello. There's an energy exchange there. The more that you kind of raise your vibration and step into that place of authenticity, you are able to then spark and inspire others, even in a very kind of subconscious way, to look for that same light within themselves and to bring that out from the depths, kind of that wild self from where it's been almost in hiding or was made to feel that it needed to be kind of domesticated, rendered docile, caged in a lot of ways. This is an energy of an uncaging, and at a pace which is comfortable for you to really explore and find healthy and productive ways to express kind of these elements of self that may have been dormant for some time or you'd kind of hidden away within you, that the time is now through this connection, in the energetic exchange between you and this individual to really step into a reimagining of yourself and almost a rewilding of yourself so that new adventures, new horizons, a new kind of layer of your human experience in this lifetime is then possible for you. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be a first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. Got U, X, J, F, Q, G, V, and P. So those are your messages, group 1. I hope they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled love letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of that out as well. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 2. You chose the red Jasper along with these cards, which I will take a look at in a minute. I'm going to channel a little bit at first, kind of directly with this crystal in terms of why did you meet this person? What's the purpose of this connection? And I'm really drawn with this specific crystal, which is predominantly red jasper, but then there are also these striations of yellow jasper that are kind of blended in with it. And so this is really bringing forth this energy of, it's almost like a yin-yang balance, where predominantly there is this red, this kind of root chakra energy, this sense of feeling very kind of comfortable in one's own identity, very grounded. This can talk about kind of foundations and sort of the basis of action, a plan that is put in place. This can even be kind of alluding to a larger kind of chapter of your soul's plan across kind of eternity. And that when blended in with this kind of the yellow jasper striations here, this solar plexus. I don't know why I was almost going to say sacral chakra. So again, a little bit of that, that's kind of leading there, feeling very comfortable with where you are, and, igniting this passion within yourself. And then we're moving up that kind of chakra tree to that solar plexus chakra, that yellow energy, that golden energy, which is very much a stance of empowerment. That's action. That's go time. That in some way, this connection with this person, it feels is really meant to propel you to the next level of your life journey, really bring some things out from almost like untapped potential within yourself that has really been kind of laying dormant, kind of this energy of sort of watching life from the sidelines in a certain way. And through the experiences that you have with this individual, maybe things that don't go so well, and you're kind of propelled onto this self-healing journey that brings you into a greater sense of kind of alignment with yourself. It shifts the whole trajectory of your life. Any kind of lack mentality that you had been sort of harboring within yourself, even very unconsciously, that this connection is really meant to kind of bring you down to basics, to kind of get to the root of a lot of sort of wounding or issues within yourself that had maybe even been unconsciously kind of projected out in terms of what you were really allowing into your life or feeling that you were worthy and deserving of. It's almost a kind of a reconfiguration of that root, of that base, which allows you to, elevate your life in a more substantial way. These changes deeply within yourself then kind of rippling out into opportunities that you are able to call in or are feeling very empowered and courageous to move toward. That may even just be more of a state of wellness within yourself, knowing you are good enough, knowing you are worthy and deserving of healthy and reciprocal love just as you are. And that kind of process, coming to that point, that core realization within yourself, and the ways in which that kind of ripples out, and it changes in so many levels, all layers of your reality, all relationships are affected. Your living circumstances might be affected. What you're doing professionally might be affected. The vibration that you give off, your glow changes, and you are then able to call into your reality things that are in alignment with that. So this is really kind of this idea of, as within, so without. So a very kind of profoundly metamorphic connection that this is here, that it is meant in a lot of ways to almost shake you, to bring you down to your knees, to make you really question everything, your core reality, even views and sort of a worldview and a view of yourself, most importantly, kind of your place in this world, or sort of, the choices or challenges that you have faced or you have, encountered, and kind of the options that then leaves available for you, and how that has shaped your reality, that this connection, through this kind of this fire, this activation, this passion. It's really an energy of kind of rebuilding, building in a new direction, and aligning more with a higher potential or a higher purpose than what you had imagined was possible for you previously. So I'm going to get into these cards now and get a little bit deeper into kind of the purpose of this connection, why you have met this person. We have delight, love, and abundance. So that abundance card is obviously really ties in with this idea of shifting that vibration internally in order to be able to experience new and different results outside of yourself. There is an energy here with these flowers, this springtime energy. Flowers actually in all three of these cards, kind of this meadow, this sort of new fragrance that is coming about, a new version of yourself. That is coming forth into your conscious awareness. This is a planting of new seeds, a tending of new seeds, even approaching kind of the topic of love from a broader sense, a journey within to become that love you are seeking first and foremost, to focus on kind of optimism that no matter the circumstances you are facing, that good things are possible for you. Storms will pass, kind of a winter, a heavy stage in your life, or even kind of the heaviness that you experience in the course of this connection and kind of what unfolds with this individual. It's calling to mind this idea of creating a very necessary cocoon phase for you in order to undergo a very profound transformation, a very profound glow up, sort of the tools that you harness, a lot of healing and being very gentle with oneself, compassionate with oneself, kind of reframing your perspective. Eliminating or culling some of the weeds that have grown in your world, in your reality, and in that internal landscape that you are able to identify as maybe seeds that were improperly planted within you by others, other people who were acting from a place of distortion, or who had kind of, just for their own particular kind of life experience or worldview, they almost projected upon you some element of distortion where you questioned your worth, you questioned your lovability. You may have felt very fractured, very flawed, very broken. And it's something, this is almost kind of a moving through that, clearing that away, learning to really decipher and discern sort of truth from other people's sort of fiction or projection upon you. Tending your own garden, really nurturing that garden of your heart, that garden within self, becoming that love you are seeking, embodying that vibration fearlessly and very gently over a course of time. This energy of kind of these flowers, and they're not growing overnight. These seeds, it takes time to grow. It's an energy of personal growth here, of growing beyond your comfort zone, growing beyond kind of these outdated programs, also growing into kind of a new idea, a new concept of what you may have considered your type previously, or the type of relationship that you were seeking, what love looks like, how that is meant to be felt and experienced, and a recognition that this connection with this person is really meant to sort of stimulate or instigate within you, maybe through experiencing kind of distortion or toxicity with them. And it sets you off on a journey of self-help, of self-healing, identifying patterns within yourself, programs within yourself, and rewriting those things, reframing your idea of what you are worth, recognizing that, whatever may have played out in the past, whatever sort of trends or, kind of the repeating scenarios, like the repeating cast of characters with the same sort of archetypes or themes showing up just in different kind of guises in a variety of experiences. You're identifying these things, you're plucking these things out from where they have just been sort of operating or sort of moving around in your subconscious. You are identifying these things and choosing a new way forward, choosing different seeds to plant. Mantras can be very important as well within this connection. Just again, that idea of sort of rewriting that script, that self-talk. not without kind of pain and difficulty, this process of kind of being brought down to one's knees, that root chakra energy, digging in deep. That's deep shadow work. This is a deeply confrontational energy. So it feels like a connection that, again, can be very triggering in a lot of ways. The two of you really being mirrors for one another about some of these unconscious wounds and programming that you hold within self, in order to be able to kind of dig very deeply beyond your sort of surface level experiences, beyond just kind of that mind chatter, those same kind of, round and round sort of tales or ideas that we have about ourselves that kind of play in the background, and really affect what we think we are worthy of or deserving of, what our actions in the past have kind of opened up for us in terms of possibility, things that, may have been not very balanced, but it was comfortable, it was known. We became sort of the comfort zone was almost that toxicity in and of itself. A connection which is really seeking to highlight a lot of these patterns, the patterns within self. This can even be a situation where this is a very positive and healthy connection that is available. These energies are very wholesome with this person. It's nourishment, and yet it is really triggering something within you, these blockades, these kind of narratives within yourself where you almost feel unworthy of this. So very confrontational in that sense. This doesn't necessarily need to be a situation where two people are, triggering one another and then kind of propelled off in these separate directions, in this energy of isolation. It feels there's a lot of growth in these cards. So again, this can very likely be a connection where you are equally triggering one another and growing with one another. It's bringing to mind this idea also with all of these field of flowers. There's a community between the two of you. There's a kinship. You're kind of tied together at the root. You're holding hands. Your fingers are interlaced, literally or energetically, as you're kind of walking each other through this process. Confronting these things, digging these things out from where they've almost been in hiding, and really asking yourselves, does this resonate with my personal truth? Is this fear which is surfacing, or this element of self which tells me that this healthy love, this very kind of different kind of love, that it is not to be trusted, or I'm not deserving of it, or it all just kind of fall apart in the future. Any of these sort of narratives, again, this very confrontational sort of energy, to really kind of pull up and extract and remove from your subconscious, from your sort of mental space, that self-talk. Planting of new seeds, tending of new seeds, and a connection which has, a lot of potential to grow into something of abundance, something of sweetness, something of delight, even just internally, that balance, that yin-yang balance that is created within each of you individually, becoming more of a friend to yourself, coming to terms with where you've been, and understanding your ability to kind of change the horizons that you are moving toward, by choosing to focus on other things, choosing to, not be embittered by the narratives of the past or the difficulties of the past, but choosing to believe, that good can still come, that as much as love may have hurt or been disappointing in the past, that it is possible to experience delight and abundance in a loving connection, that not all triggers that come up are kind of the breaking point in a situation, that it is possible for two people to be deeply kind of shaken to their core, be sort of overwhelmed with this fear and this trepidation of the unknown, and yet courageously step forth with one another in the interest of self and in the interest of what can be kind of created between the two of you in a larger sense, to step forth in a new direction, to change course at any point in time. This is an energy of evolution, an energy of really stepping more into, again, that embodiment of love of self, love internally, or work that you've each been doing individually to become that love you have sought, and now it is here in a material world, a new opportunity for different types of seeds to be planted and tended, a different type of experience in love. There's a healthiness to this. There's again a bounty to this, a richness to this. That this connection really represents a choice that you are each faced with, to step into a new kind of experience of love and partnership, with self and within self first and foremost, which then ripples out into what you are both able to experience and cultivate with and sort of through one another in a material sense. So I'm going to get some tarot to get a little more clarification about this. Okay, so we have Justice, which is Libra. The Lovers, which is Gemini. Ace of Swords, which is air energy, Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. Queen of Swords, so more air energy. The Hierophant, which is Taurus. And the Six of Pentacles, which is earth energy, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. So this is definitely with Justice, and also the two people on the Lovers. This is definitely that confirmation of coming into a place of balance, that idea of yin yang internally, which then ripples out into what's possible in terms of greater partnership. The two of you really meeting one another in order to step into that higher version of love within self first and foremost, which then affects kind of the caliber of love you are able to give and receive with another. Ace of Swords is a card of truth. So this can really tie in with love here in terms of, you know, this being a true love, a healthy love, a new kind of redefined version of love than what you had known or experienced previously. It is an opportunity here. There's something where, you know, this connection, this situation gives you the gift of sight, seeing deeply within yourself, you know, doing the work internally first and foremost, creating that change inside in order to create a difference in what is rippled out into your material world. Queen of Swords is this direct energy, this cutting away, becoming very honest, very clear about what has worked for you in terms of sort of the narrative, the words that have been spoken, or this kind of self-talk, this perception, what has worked up to this point in time, what has generated abundance versus what has created an energy of lack for oneself. This is the idea of kind of rewriting that script, rewriting that narrative, changing the perception and the view out of maybe kind of a victim mentality or something where you felt very limited. And this is instead kind of, you know, taking this power into your own hands, taking that sword of truth and making efforts in a very profound and deep seated way to kind of dislodge or cut free from the limitations, kind of the residue, the energetic residue, the narratives which no longer fit, that had been kind of implanted within you or templated upon you based on love connections in the past, or even things with your upbringing that don't suit kind of that best version of self. They don't suit that abundance mindset. They are not an accurate depiction of who you truly are inside and what is possible, no matter what mistakes have been made in love in the past, whatever has been done to you by others in love in the past, that it is always possible to sort of change that narrative, choose a different way forward through kind of a different way within to that core of love within self, recognizing you are always worthy of healthy and reciprocal love. And by becoming that for yourself, you are able to then sort of call that in via others. This is an element of discernment as well, really cutting through illusions to see the truth of things, becoming very almost self-protective in the form of having that discernment, having those boundaries, but then also being self-protective by allowing love in. Allowing the work that you've done within to then kind of ripple out into what is experienced with another, what is able to be created with another. These two cards really speak to vulnerability as well, becoming very vulnerable within yourselves, and also an opportunity of what is possible in this situation, or what exists between the two of you, that through kind of taking down those walls, taking down that kind of cloak, that fortress you may have had around your heart stemming from you know, disappointments in the past, that through that vulnerability vulnerability, through that experience, through that expression, is the growth of love. It is kind of bringing that growth inside out into the material plane. The Hierophant really ties into, again, this idea of kind of traditions. So a kind of a view maybe of that you had of yourself, of what love might need to look like, or who you are. These ideas about being very broken, maybe very difficult to love, too intense, too much, somebody who only just you know, kind of ruins things, or if you'd considered yourself unlucky in love, any kind of sort of bitterness that you'd been holding on to about other circumstances that hadn't worked out. With the Justice and the Hierophant, this can both, these can talk about previous marriages that you or this person have had, and kind of the residue that has lingered, the way in which those things may have fallen apart, and you kind of blamed yourself, took on too much responsibility, sort of closed your heart off to love, a feeling of almost like, is there a person out there for me? Am I just meant to be kind of alone? Or, you know, thinking of yourself as unlovable, that in some way this connection, the energy between the two of you, the experiences that the two of you have with one another, you free yourselves from that. You free yourself to kind of step into this place of abundance, to recognize it's never too late for a fresh start. Whatever might have not worked in the past, that doesn't dictate sort of what can happen in the future. Six of Pentacles is a card of, again, moving out of that energy of kind of lack into abundance, really giving to yourself, giving yourself the gift of self-love. This is the giving of love to another. So a lot that is able to be exchanged between you and this individual, in terms of words that are spoken, you know, kind of the examples that are set about healthy sort of ways to have boundaries and to step into that place of vulnerability. It feels very much that there's an opportunity here for the two of you to teach one another how to love, and to learn from one another a new kind of face, or more of the truth of what love actually is. You both may have been operating under a lot of illusions, you know, a lot of distortion previously. And this is a liberating energy here. This is a rebirth energy. This is the energy of kind of new beginnings, aligning with that person that is really, you know, intended to kind of love you down to the core of who you are, that may have been elusive to find previously, because in some way you were operating under that kind of guise of distortion. You had kind of, you know, this kind of something that was contorted, or something that was almost, again, like an illusion within self, and then what was able to be kind of magnetized in from that reflected that illusion. This is something where energetically, and again in the exchanges between the two of you, you're cutting through all of that. You're liberating yourselves, which is then freeing you up to come into alignment with that partnership you had been hoping for, what you had been seeking, because you are really encouraged to kind of become that within yourself and cull everything that is not in alignment with that. So I'm going to get some guidance from Spirit now about this situation. Okay, and we have confront your polar opposite, or I'm sorry, confront your opposite polarity. So again, kind of that idea of the yin yang here, becoming that state of wholeness within self first and foremost, and that is what this connection really motivates each of you to do. This can also really tie into work that each of you have independently been doing to become that wholeness within self, to sort of cut away from those narratives, cut away from that, those distortions and things that were projected upon you, or that were not kind of an accurate portrayal of the potential within yourselves to change and to create different sort of results. That now, as a result of all this kind of internal growth, or this internal work, you are now being confronted with that perfect mirror for everything that you actually are, that highest potential that exists within you. So a lot that is kind of triggered and confronted within each of you to kind of get down into these roots, dig very deeply, rewrite that script and that narrative from the inside. You know, all the kind of disbelief about love, the pessimism, the negativity, the things that didn't went wrong, or that did go wrong. You are now confronted with kind of the opposite, the potential of what can go right. So this is a very beautiful energy here of growth that is encouraging you to, you know, face these things that are triggered, inward. Face these aspects within self where you are feeling almost maybe like pushing this person away because you are questioning your worthiness and your lovability, that this is a teaching tool with the Six of Pentacles to really kind of dive deeply within, rewrite that script, cut away from those illusions and those falsities in order to step into that place of abundance. Knowing your worth, knowing your value helps you to kind of liberate yourself and step forth into the bounty of what can be experienced here. This can also really tie into if this is kind of a situation where there's some, kind of chaos with this person, a bit of back and forth, or you find yourself at a distance or in separation at this time, to really confront what has been triggered within you. Much of what you might have been kind of projecting outward, placing blame, that it's time in this situation for your own growth in order to free yourself and liberate yourself and kind of fulfill the layers almost at a contractual level of what the two of you in soul speak have really come together to sort of initiate within one another. It is this heaviness. It's bringing those roots up to the surface. It's bringing that clarity and awareness. And you are now tasked, not with running from these things, not with kind of hiding behind that energy of projecting. It is now time to shift that focus inward. Seek to find the cause of this. What are repeating themes? What are repeating patterns? What within you calls in those type of experiences, or in some way has allowed these things, maybe allowed these things for too long. And it is time to really cut away from that, to create a new story within yourself, create that shift within you, and bring that shift out into a more kind of dominant part of who you are and what you will and will not accept, what you will and will not entertain, and really kind of proving that through actions, changing that self-talk, changing, the world you're surrounding yourself with, the kind of relationships that you have, platonic, romantic, how you may be romanticizing people or even villainizing people. Taking a level of personal responsibility in this to do what you can with what you have, which is that internal landscape. It is that internal terrain. It's freeing yourself from kind of the bondage to distortion. It's freeing yourself from that energy of kind of toxicity and disappointment, and any kind of pessimism or a lack mentality. Honoring where you have been, recognizing your journey up to this point, but also understanding your ability to create for yourself something different than what you've experienced up to this point in time. There's a lot of raw material here in either kind of vein of that situation. This may even be a continuum. You may find yourself in a period of separation with this person, and the work that each of you do now kind of lays that foundation for that coming together and experiencing of a healthy and reciprocal love in the future. Or those could be kind of two different narratives that are sort of fitting into this energy with you, group two, where maybe this is even two different people, work that you're needing to do with someone from your past, or many someones with this kind of collection of individuals here. Kind of an opportunity for love, for a healthy and reciprocal love is here. A true counterpart energy, somebody that you can, truly have that reciprocal exchange with, and you're almost limiting yourself from that. You're standing in your own way. The ghosts of the past still have you tethered to a certain kind of view of lack within yourself, and so you're really guided to go in and liberate yourself. Free yourself from that, rewrite the story within yourself, and open to receive and experience this very beautiful and nurturing and abundant connection that wants to develop and grow for you. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or it could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. We've got F, X, H, K, B, P, U, and J. So those are your messages, group two. I hope they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled love letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of that out as well. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. I chose the rose quartz along with these cards, which I will take a look at in a minute. I want to start channeling based on this crystal, based on the rose quartz, as kind of why did you meet this person? What is kind of the purpose of this connection? And so rose quartz is associated with the heart chakra. It is a stone of love and a stone of gentleness. So this really feels to be a situation where you are meant to be activated to a deeper kind of layer of love within yourself, and in terms of what is possible with love from another. This is moving closer toward that sort of work in progress and ever evolving endeavor of unconditional love that we hear a lot about, and it's something which it's a very lofty goal. It is a very noble goal, and it is something which can definitely be fleeting. It is a beautiful pursuit, and it is something which, at various points in time, we come very close in proximity to that, only to sort of ebb away. And so this is, again, this idea of kind of coming into greater sort of proximity to that unconditional love of self, which is then able to be kind of applied outwardly to unconditional love for another. And so this is really, it feels to be a connection where you're intended to see and appreciate something greater about yourself through the eyes of another. This may be a very tender connection. This is a very healing energy here with this stone. And so it really feels that this is almost these lessons through very beautiful experiences that you have been craving and that you have been needing in love. And if you are in a period of kind of turbulence with this person at this point in time, it feels ultimately, though, that this is, even the difficulties are a roadmap to seeking and finding that that kind of gentle space within yourself first and foremost. And this can also be something that through kind of the challenges and the struggles that you are facing with one another, you are in the process of kind of strengthening something in terms of the core and the foundation of what can then develop in the future between the two of you. Heart chakra activations or expansions may be very significant to this connection. You may have really activated one another, or it is because of kind of that opening of the heart chakra, that expansion, that work that you've been doing on self-love, that you have really magnetized in somebody who holds that vibration, who is similarly open in that heart space, somebody who is ready, willing, and able to dive very deeply into self, into kind of the free expression of love that is always a work in progress. We are always confronting various kind of blocks and sort of shadows and limitations that are sort of newly formed, or that, even if we've confronted these things at different kind of layers and levels, they resurface again in kind of a different guise or with a different sort of intensity, in order for us to just love ourselves all over again, to choose not the path of fear and avoidance, but, really kind of diving into these things, owning these things, accepting these things, confronting and kind of choosing a different way of going. This is an energy of patience as well with this stone, and it is really talking about kind of the purpose for the two of you meeting is to come to this greater understanding that, good things take time. Love is a work in progress, and to really just build something very intricate with one another and within yourselves first and foremost, even through kind of the fear and the hesitation to open up to a greater level in what's possible between the two of you, that by taking those almost baby steps or consistently showing up, that kind of daily check-in with one another, you are building kind of this mystery or this elusiveness of a higher level love that is being created out into the material reality, kind of these visions or the dream that the two of you may have had of what love and partnership could look like, that true soul fulfillment. It feels that this is the energy here. This is the makings of this. There are many, different layers to it, but it's something which, it's a connection which is calling you to sort of reimagine or re-envision sort of the nature of love, something you've been working toward within yourself, you've been calling into your reality, arrives perhaps in a different package or at a time you hadn't really been expecting. You've been caught off guard in some way, and it is this energy again of kind of like a work in progress, not something which is rushed into, but this kind of gradual acclimation to what may be a very kind of profound opening and awareness within each of you, to these feelings, perhaps an overwhelm of feelings, and learning to just sort of settle into that space, learning to kind of ride with those kind of waves of sort of chaos and bliss, holding tightly to that vision and to that, very heart-centered awareness, learning to navigate by the heart, to feel with the heart, quieting the logical mind and kind of the ego and fears. It's stepping more into that heart-centered reality. And in the process of, again, you individually doing these things, it feels like this connection, the purpose of it is to really put into practice those principles, to be able to experience that with another in a tangible and material form. So I'm going to take a look at these cards now and get a little bit deeper into what was channeled as far as kind of the purpose of meeting this person in this connection. We've got community, flexibility, and change. So this idea of change is definitely a reimagining of what love would look like, the love you have been seeking, the time and manner in which it shows up, maybe a direction you had been headed, someone you had been focusing on that you thought was that forever person, was that horizon, and that this other individual, this kind of, it feels like a very new energy. So a new individual, even if this is someone you're in separation with, someone from your past, they are new in terms of kind of the changes that are taking place within them, that are taking place within you. It's almost like you keep reintroducing yourselves to one another. There's a lot of potential for change, of moving out of some stale and stuck habits within self and within the dynamic. This is a connection which really sort of instigates evolution, operating from, living in a heart-centered reality as opposed to kind of fear-based or ego mentality. This idea here with the tiger on this flexibility card and how it's sort of remote in the distance, that the purpose of this connection is to help you confront some fears or blockages you have about opening up fully to love, maybe loving again, allowing this person in or back into your reality. And it's this idea that the love that you hold inside and that you are is not meant to be contained. It is meant to be shared. It is meant to be experienced. It is something which you can only truly understand and come close to that that proximity of unconditional love, not by holding it within, not having it as just a theory or just as something that, you keep in a very isolated sense. It is meant to be really sprinkled out. It is meant to be spread out and shared, using discernment, using caution, not just given, freely to anybody that sort of comes along, but it's this idea of kind of evolving, learning to trust in your heart, trust in that intuition. Recognizing, true red flags from maybe just these elements of fear of vulnerability, a fear of being hurt again, which has maybe kept you in sort of a cocoon phase with these little butterflies here. That this connection, this person is really meant to kind of break you out of your mold in some way. That this is an energy of emergence, of transformation, of a reimagining. If this is someone that you've had kind of a back and forth with, this is a connection which is very dynamic, which will go through many other phases in the duration of it. Again, this confrontation with fears, and instead of choosing that path of fear, choosing that path of avoidance, choosing that path of really, projecting or becoming embittered or closed down by the disappointments that you've experienced, there's opportunity to change, to act from love. Love for self by putting up healthy boundaries and barriers, love for this person by giving them the space that they need to undergo their own personal transformation, and also love of self by choosing, again, not to shut down, but to, continue to love fearlessly when these opportunities for love present themselves. If this is somebody new that is in your world, you don't have a back and forth, you don't have a romantic history with them, it really feels that this person is, again, kind of knocking on the door to get you out of that cocoon, to get you to open up to love again, to put into practice kind of that work of self-love, that journey of confronting fears and distortions within yourself, liberating yourself from kind of the damage that was wrought by other people that were careless with your heart. This is a different kind of love. This is a different kind of connection, and that might feel very frightening to the ego, the otherness of that, a fear of being hurt again, which is causing you to almost be maybe very timid and sort of withhold or hold back from this person. But it's really, it's an energy and it's a dynamic. The purpose of it is for you to flourish, to spread your wings and fly, to allow yourself to love again, to imagine a different horizon. It assists you and helps you in almost releasing maybe space you had been holding for somebody from your past that was unwilling to change, or that the nature of your connection, kind of the scope of it, was simply meant to be something triggering and activating, but they were not someone who was intended to really come forth into the future with you. That this new kind of situation is meant to really open you up to sort of what's next after that kind of that quaking experience, after whatever brought you to that place of needing to cultivate unconditional love of self. You're now ready for the next step. You're now ready for the next leg of your journey. It's a change in direction. It's that loving energy focused upon someone who is able, willing, and ready to receive and reciprocate what you hold inside, what you have to offer. This is someone of a like vibration with community, part of your soul family, somebody who has done the work, someone who will see and appreciate you for who you are and what you have to bring to the table. It won't be without its challenges, without these fears that creep up. Again, kind of an energy of push and evolution, changing your patterns and habits, coming to recognize the ways in which maybe you have been the runner, you have run from love, and choosing instead to walk forth through that fear, to break out of that pattern and habit within yourself, or what you had experienced in the past with another. So definitely an energy of evolution here, a lot of love in this situation, and it feels like the purpose of this connection is meant to introduce you to a new face of love, a new kind of phase of love in your life. It's a transformative energy. It's a higher level energy. It's almost that kind of wish fulfillment in the flesh, or it has the makings of that. Of two people who can really be that source of growth, be that source of change for one another through very positive experiences, not again without triggers, but not kind of this triggering and then one is left isolated to kind of do that work alone. One is left sort of stranded in love alone to kind of pick up the pieces. This feels very different. This feels very much to be something which, you kind of are shaking that jar of pieces that each of you hold within yourselves, and you're really, kind of holding the space for one another, encouraging one another, guiding one another, and participating with one another in sort of putting those pieces back together in a different way, with one another, for one another, through one another, and alongside one another. So very much an energy here of kind of a breath of fresh air, a change in pace in what you had been used to in love, what you've been used to in kind of a partnership or even the development of a romance, which might be bringing up a lot of fears for the two of you. But it's something where you really have this great potential here to evolve sort of the narrative you've told yourself or your experiences up to this point in connectedness with another. So I'm going to get some tarot to get a little more clarification about this. Okay, we've got the Five of Pentacles, which is Earth energy, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. Page of Cups, which is water energy, Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio. The Emperor, which is Aries. King of Wands, which is fire energy, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Ace of Pentacles, so more earth energy. And the Sun, which is Leo. So the Sun is really talking about illumination, and it's a very positive energy here in terms of the evolution just of these cards, these tarot cards, that this is a connection which has a lot of potential to grow and to develop into something that is very nourishing, very nurturing for the two of you. It really is something which can help you to show what love truly can be and is. This Five of Pentacles, which is normally a card of being out in the cold, in this particular deck, it's a little cherub that is pulling the blindfold off of this woman's eyes. This is an idea of coming out from that cold, coming, back into that warmth. It's change in direction. It's a change in perception that this connection, the reason that you have met this person, this is what it is affording you, is this ability to kind of step deeper into that warmth of love within self, and through that process of what you've cultivated within, that openness that has occurred or that you've been working to sustain within yourself, kind of removing the blocks and the prohibitions and barriers you have against giving and receiving love, that this is that kind of next evolution. It's that next step. It's a connection which the purpose is to sort of teach you through positive experiences, through inviting you in closer as opposed to pushing away. Page of Cups talks about generosity. It talks about this tenderness, this sweetness, something very new, something that very much, may trigger you in terms of sort of the ghosts of the past, the shadows of what you've experienced before, these fears of maybe being hurt in love again. And you're being really encouraged then to step into that place of empowerment with the Emperor and the King of Wands. It's a growth energy. It's a maturity energy. It's not allowing kind of the limits of the past to hold you back any longer. It's the act of liberating oneself from those limitations and from what has been experienced by choosing to open up, to extend yourself in love again, to receive the cup of love that is being offered to you. This is the idea as well with the Emperor of, confronting those fears, those tigers, those kind of tricks of the ego, the paper tigers, the things that seem like they're going to be really scary and really, really dangerous and really not for your best interest, only to kind of find out that it was all just an illusion. You were really making a lot of fear out of nothing at all, something that can definitely be vanquished, or that isn't, upon closer inspection, what you may have initially sort of from that fear-based place within you thought that it was. Very much a connection and a situation which is encouraging you to step into that place of personal empowerment, the courage to love again after everything that you've been through. King of Wands, this activating energy, it really again is something that kind of re-sparks what may have been dormant within you, this love within self, kind of putting rubber to the road, this practice and this act of self-love, bringing that out to experience that with another. This is really speaking about too, with these two mature energies, a connection which wants to evolve. This is something that feels very long-term, something which helps to elevate and change the two of you on a very fundamental fundamental level. There's a purpose here. There's a reason here of experiencing healthy and mature love. And it's something that you may have to grow into individually. It won't necessarily be available, kind of initially, but it has all the kind of like the recipe and the ingredients here for the two of you to really grow into that place with one another. Feeling very empowered through loving exchanges with another, both in the sense of kind of healthy barriers that are maintained and also this openness to give and receive in a very tender and vulnerable state. Ace of Pentacles does talk about something very substantial, a paradigm shift that this represents, this connection, this dynamic with this person that when tied in with the sun will be revealed in time. It's something that, again, is very much reflective of a different type of potential, a different type of narrative than what you've known and love up to this point. If this is somebody that you have been going round and round with, this can talk about kind of this phase or evolution that wherever you find yourself at now, this is not sort of the end of the story, that there is great potential for change, for something solid to be created, and to really illumination to happen as far as the difficulties you faced up to this point in time and how these were all very necessary to become that love you've been seeking, to hold that unconditional love within self first and foremost, confronting shadows, confronting fears, loving yourself anyway, choosing to kind of move forward with compassion and patience at a pace that is comfortable for you, and that by doing that sort of over and over again, you're able to kind of hold that space and vibration for somebody else on their personal journey, on their personal process of internal confrontation, and making that choice to evolve, making that choice again and again to move in the direction of love rather than to be held back by limits, fears, and illusions. So a very beautiful energy here. This feels very much the purpose of this connection is to introduce you to a different type of love, to help you really distance yourself from a lot of fears of loss, fears of kind of repeating patterns, things you've really sought to extract yourself from or break free from. And this is the energy of, a loving connection, which is here, that really proves to you that the work that you have done has not been in vain. The experiences you have had, all the hearts that were not equipped to love you, that couldn't appreciate you, couldn't value you, all of that was kind of the paving stones. It was the preparation necessary for this connection, for this heart that is meant to receive you. Any kind of work that you've been doing, this internal work, this period of being very much alone, that this connection, this person, the purpose of this is to really break you out of that cocoon. It's an energy that you can exchange with that is very uplifting. It is the idea of rising into love as opposed to falling in love, falling apart, having to kind of pick up the pieces. This again is two people who are sort of examining those pieces within one another, and finding wholeness there, helping one another to really see that bounty and that beauty and the value of who each one of you are as individuals, just as you are. An openness, a change in plans in terms of what each of you thought kind of was the road you were headed down, the direction you were going in terms of your life and in terms of love in general. So a lot of energy of change here, but it feels like change in a very positive direction. Fears which will need to be confronted, but the work that is done through that, through this loving exchange, through the lessons that are taught in a very positive manner, that it helps to really grow the two of you into a different version of self, and to really open up and create material experiences for one another that involve kind of the positive qualities of what love can be. A relationship that is very sustaining, very nourishing, very empowering, where your authenticity is kind of seen and recognized, and that honors kind of the efforts that you have taken, the lengths you have had to go to in order to kind of become that within yourselves first and foremost. So I'm going to get some guidance now about this situation. Okay, and we have share your wisdom with others, shine your light. So this is beautiful, and this ties in with that energy of the sun, illumination, a very positive energy here, a very positive connection. This is really guidance to, continue to open up to this situation, to the fears that you are being confronted with, and to continue to walk through those, to work through those. Trust your heart knowing, that heart wisdom, and to recognize as well with that wisdom and discernment what might be tricks of the mind, tricks of the ego that are seeking to kind of keep you limited, keep you stuck in a previous narrative, resistant to opening up to the element of change, resistant to kind of participating in that. Sort of the arrival of the love that you have been seeking and that you have worked to create within yourself, and then almost a fear or a hesitation, wanting to kind of dim down or sort of shy away from this. Almost somebody who kind of moves into that energy of they themselves becoming a runner after having dealt in a run-chase situation and really freed themselves from it. That you're being guided to lean into this, shine the light on those fears, as vulnerable and uncertain and as terrifying as that might feel. Upon closer inspection, once you move through that, there is this feeling here that the joy to be experienced ultimately in this connection will be worth sort of the efforts that it takes to get there, that the growth that is possible here, it is without limit. This is a connection which really encourages you to discover that light within yourself, to harness that within you, to kind of bring that forth. This imagery here is very reminiscent of the Hermit card as well, with this woman holding this lantern. So again, that idea of coming out of that cocoon, coming out of that chrysalis, this connection is really meant to gently awaken you, to kind of applaud you for all of the work that you've done up to this point by really seeing you, really recognizing you at an energetic level, who you are, not who you are on the outside, not who you are based on, kind of titles or descriptions, but who you are at your core. Someone who mirrors that inner light that you hold within. Somebody who, is really trying to teach you through kind of a different experience in love, new horizons that can be reached. It feels that you both you teach each other in this sense. These are two people who have been, through some experiences in love. They become wiser from that, and that this is really something that, the two of you can share that kind of wisdom, what you have learned, where your journey has really taken you up to this point in time. That this is a connection that, again, holds a lot of potential for long-term growth. This is something that can bring you into that greater awareness of that heart wisdom, that heart knowing, being able to lead with the heart, follow the heart, as opposed to kind of allowing fear to hold you back. So shining the light on any sort of hesitation, really examining, are these red flags, or is this kind of tricks of the ego, tricks of the mind, trying to keep me small and limited, really trusting in the work that you've done up to this point, the experiences that you've had, and even kind of what is triggered through this circumstance with this individual, through kind of the duration of your interaction with one another. Trust that it is, kind of illuminating for you areas that you are needing to release and let go of within yourself, a change in direction, a change in patterns, a change in habits, and also really leaning into this energy of trust, trusting in your heart, trusting in your discernment, trusting in your ability to step confidently into this very new energy. It feels like this very substantial energy of, that love you've been waiting for, that love that you have been seeking, recognizing that preparedness within yourself to give and receive love, having compassion and being as unconditional with that as possible for yourself first and foremost, which then can ripple out into how you are kind of growing and interacting, and how the evolution of this connection takes place with this other individual. So I'm going to get some initials, and this can be first, middle, or last name of you or this person, or could spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. I've got B, Q, G, V, and P. So those are your messages, group 3. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer them through my Etsy shop, and there's a link in the description box of the video for that. I offer pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled love letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of that out as well. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.